Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
And good morning, Kentucky. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Bob Scott. This is the place where your faith, your freedom, and good old common sense conservatism comes together. We talk about the issues that matter most to your family, your health, and our future as Kentuckians. In just a minute, I'll be joined by my very good friend, Barbara Day, a dietitian, wellness specialist, media veteran, political activist, and event organizer for the Navy SEAL Foundation. She has spent several years helping families reclaim their health and their futures, and you won't want to miss 1 second of that segment. But before Barbara joins us, I want to very quickly play a story that's making headlines right here in Kentucky. Please play the clip number 1, if you would, please.
It's a question of death or due diligence.
I'll be honest with you, I think it's ridiculous.
Powell County Judge Executive Eddie Barnes says he and another EMS worker were called to assist James Harrison when he was bitten by a snake earlier this year.
The victim had told us that we needed to administer the anti-venom as soon as possible. If not, the first stages was paralysis, second stages was respiratory arrest, third stage was cardiac arrest, and he said, "I'm going to die."
Barnes says they were unable to reach their EMS director, but they did speak with medical staff at Clark Regional Medical Center. While they were waiting for a helicopter to take Harrison to UK Hospital, they gave him the anti-venom, something Harrison's wife, Kristen Wiley, is thankful for.
Every physician that we've talked to about it and about the course of the bite agrees that they were heroes and did what needed to be done to save him, and that's who I want working on me in an emergency.
The Kentucky Board of Emergency Medical Services, or K-BEAMS, may think otherwise. Barnes says he later learned K-BEAMS policy changed 2 years ago, and that only wilderness paramedics can now administer anti-venom.
If we had sat there and let him die, then we would have been, morally and ethically responsible, and we could have been criminally charged for his death.
That's why Barnes, who has his paramedic's license, and other EMS workers will go before K-BEAMS to argue why they should keep their licenses.
If it came down today, I will do the same thing. You cannot put a price on a person's life.
Their hearing will take place September 30th. In Powell County, Alyssa Williams, WKYT.
An amazing story from over in Powell County. Of course, the gentleman that you heard and watched in that video he's also the county judge, which is honestly, it's the highest elected public official in that particular county and most counties in the state of Kentucky. And he is now tomorrow, and that's the reason I wanted to get this story on today and talk about it briefly. We are following the story very closely. If he had not administered this anti-venom to the gentleman that had been bitten by this snake, the guy probably would have died. There is apparently some kind of new regulation that you have to be a wilderness paramedic to be able to administer this. But in a situation like that, common sense has to come in, folks, in my opinion. And this fella was a trained, very experienced EMT, along with the other. And I know the state representatives and senators are aware of this, and I have a feeling we're going to see some new legislation coming out in the next session, but that's not till January. Right now, between now and then, this gentleman is going to be going before, and the fellow that was working with him are going to be going before the board tomorrow to see if they're going to even be able to maintain their license. And to me, again, this is a situation where the government is overreaching, and a situation where someone's life was literally hanging in the balance, and they did the right thing. And I'm sorry, and he said it, if he had to do it again, he'd do the same thing. So, this raises important questions. How do we restore trust in our medical system? How do we make sure Kentuckians get the treatment they need without fear or of blame or punishment? That's what we'll explore in the next segment. I want you to stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of Kentucky's Voice and my special guest, Barbara Day.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. As I mentioned earlier, I'm joined today by my good friend Barbara Day. Barbara is a registered dietitian, a wellness specialist, and she's spent many years in media and has also been working most recently as a political activist. The bottom line is she helps families take back control of their health. She has also done some work with the Navy SEAL Foundation, and that's where I really got to know Barbara well, because Caroline and I at the time were volunteering to do some fundraising events for those warriors and their families. Barbara definitely has a real gift for making health practical and showing families how to move from where they are to where they want to be. Today, she's here to walk us through the brand new Make America Healthy Again dietary guidelines. And if you're watching the show right now via TV, you can see I've got my Maha shirt on in honor of her visit. It's obviously a very important topic that's become near and dear to our Secretary of Health, Robert Kennedy Jr. And before we get to that discussion, Barb, I do have a clip that I want to share with you from Secretary of Health Robert Kennedy Jr. Talking about the change in these dietary guidelines and what that's going to mean to our country. Please play clip 2.
Out to reissue the dietary guidelines. And we're going to do it very quickly. We have until January, but we're going to do it. I think we'll have it done even before August. And we took the Biden guidelines, which were 453 pages long and were clearly written by industry, that are incomprehensible, driven by the same industry capture and those kind of carnal impulses that put Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid. And we are changing that. So we're going to have 4-page dietary guidelines that tell people essentially eat whole food, eat the food that's good for you. That's going to drive changes in the school lunch programs. And we're going to need your help to make sure we can get good school lunches to Head Start. I've been touring these Head Start facilities. Everything they eat is in a package, and it is just loaded with sugar and with chemicals. We're poisoning this generation, 800,000 kids, the poorest kids in our country, and we're starting them out with this count against them, with diabetes. Pre-diabetes, 38% of our youth now are diabetic or pre-diabetic. That was 0 when I was a kid. Anybody thinks that we did gold standard medicine in this country from these institutions, look at our children. They're the sickest children in the world. Laura, you say that Congressman DeLauro, you say that you've worked for 20 years on getting food dye out. Give me credit. I got it out in 100 days.
I'll give you that credit.
All right, so let's work together and do something that we all believe in, which is have healthy kids in our country, for God's sake. We
Miss
can all do
Dean.
that together. It's not, there's no such thing as Republican children or Democratic children. There's just kids.
You know, and I love what RFK Jr. Said at the end of that. There's no such thing as a Republican child or a Democrat child. They're an American child, you know, and again, it's putting the focus where it needs to be. And by the way, folks, if you want to join or you have a question with regard to today's program, you can text us at 502-571-0970. Again, that text line number, if you have a question for us or want to make a comment, is 502-571-0970. My special guest today is my good friend Barbara Day. And Barbara, again, welcome to Kentucky's Voice.
Thanks. Don't you just love RFK's passion about health and about Americans and our kids? I just love it. And I just wanted to show you my hat, but I'm not going to put it on because I don't want to.
You don't want to mess up your hair.
There you go.
And for those that are listening on radio, her hair looks great, so she wants to keep that together. But Barbara, you know, can you explain what these MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, dietary guidelines are all about? And again, I was blown away when I heard under the Biden administration that were over 400, I think like 450 pages of information. And now RFK Jr. is trying to simplify it and get it down to 4 pages, you know, which, does that not make a lot of sense? But share with our folks at home or might be driving in a car what the MAHA dietary guidelines are all about.
Well, for one thing, I love the fact that Make America Healthy Again is concentrating on all this ultra-processed foods. And I think it's going to be interesting. They haven't come out yet. They're supposed to come out the end of September, but I can't wait to see how they approach this because we're not going to, I feel like they're not going to say you need all this bread and cereal like we have in the past, but we still do need some breads and cereals, but the emphasis is going to be on whole grains rather than before it was just like breads and cereals. And I feel like I'm interested to see how they approach protein because, as you know, protein now is kind of like more of a superstar, and carbohydrate has moved down a little bit only because of the ultra processed carbohydrate. So, you know, as a registered dietitian, I'm kind of interested to see how this all shakes out because me and you and a lot of people are going to have to be talking to, you know, grandmothers, to clients, to just all Americans about how they are going to be able to interpret this when they go to the grocery store. Because let's face it, it has to be at the grocery store. People have to be able to afford it. And they have, if they're going to start cooking more in their homes, they have to have something that is easy to fix because we're in a fast food. And I don't mean you have to go to McDonald's, but fast food, fix it quick. So, you know, I'm even, you won't believe this, but I am 75 years old. So I wish I was 25 again because I feel like that as a dietitian, I would really like to get in there and do a lot of stuff because, you know, change is good. And I feel like that dietitians like me and fitness people, they need to be able to tell people how to do it smartly, easily, and affordably.
Yeah, and by the way, you look absolutely great. You're going to love our next segment because I have a clip from a doctor who's like 100. And he's going to be talking about the importance of exercise, you know, in it. And I know we'll talk about that too, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. You know, how do families who feel overwhelmed, making this transition to eating healthier, what's advice do you have for them?
Well, for one thing, I have, you probably know this, but I moved from Kentucky to Indiana to be
Yeah.
close to my grandkids. And this one family has 7 kids, and they're in all these activities and all these sports. And oh my gosh, when I watch them, it's like, I want to put a good meal on the table. Not happening because they're in and out. They go to practice, they're here,
right.
they're there.
As
But,
is most American families.
and that's why you have to be able to work through that. You may have to, have fix a lot of grilled chicken, and you may have to pop a few sweet potatoes in the microwave. I mean, there's ways to do it, but you have to think about it. It's not like you can just, you have to have the food available. And my daughter-in-laws, they do a great job at having the foods available for the kids, but rarely does the families actually sit down for a real meal, except maybe on Sundays. And of course, I've always pushed the family meal, but in this fast-paced society, it's very difficult. So rather than say, oh, you have to have that family meal, then we have to kind of repurpose that information and see how they can fit it in. So even if they don't have a good family meal, more than once a week, they can offer the kids something that's healthy, but it's also quick.
Yeah, and we only have a little over a minute to go in this segment, and again, so much to talk about. Our diets in America have been so heavy laden in carbohydrates, and you talked about the importance of switching more to protein and the impact that has. Again, a little over 50 seconds. Talk about that for a second.
Well, we know that lean protein is really good, and I think we need to eat more protein and less of the carbohydrates, especially the ultra-processed carbohydrates.
Yeah, and it really is a critical function. Brain health, gut health, these are all things, and I know my own personal battle with ulcerative colitis. It's absolutely, stress and diet are two of the most important things, to keeping us healthy. Anyway, you're listening to Kentucky's Health. We're going to be right back here in a second after this short break. My special guest today is my good friend Barbara Day. You don't want to miss any of what's coming up, folks. We're going to be talking about exercise and medicine. Stay tuned.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
And you're listening to Kentucky's Voice. I'm Bob Scott, your host today, and I'm here with Barbara Day, my friend. She's a political activist and a wellness expert, among many other things. Barb wears many hats. In our last segment, we talked about the new Make America Healthy Again guidelines, but now we're turning to another key part of health, and that's exercise. And I teased this a little bit in the first segment. Barbara often says exercise is medicine, and I think you'll see why. I want to share a clip from a 100-year-old doctor who is talking about the importance of exercise. Please play clip 3.
We need to exercise every day. That's very important. I have outlived my two brothers, 13, 14 years, 17 years. They're already passed away. And every year that's going to increase another year. And I'm not going to die next year, so it's going to keep going up. But exercising is extremely important. I had a lady who helped me with the PowerPoint lectures. She was a graphic artist. She did it for a living, for advertising purposes. She did a lot of work for me, but she was kind of big. I mean, big, big, big. I said to her one day, I've got to talk to you about your weight. I'm a preventive medicine doctor. I must talk to you. Her face fell. I said, do you want the bad news first or the good news first? She says, tell me the bad news first. You should understand that overweight increases the risk of dying from almost every disease we know. But now let me give you the good news. Even though you are obese, if you exercise every day, you will live longer than the woman who's normal weight who doesn't exercise. A man who smokes, has hypertension, has high blood cholesterol, but if he exercises every day, he will outlive the man who doesn't have any of those problems, who doesn't exercise.
And you have got to love that plain-spoken 100-year-old doctor, Barb. He was making me chuckle, through a lot of his comments. But what he said is an absolute statistical fact. Now, none of us know when we're going to die. Only God knows that. And various things happen in our life that take us into eternity. Sometimes faster than most people will think. But that being said, statistically, you are going to live a longer life if you take the time to do exercise, and even exercise as simple as walking, I guess. And again, you've said many times, exercise is the most powerful longevity drug. Why do you say that?
Well, the statistics bear that out. But I do have to say one thing about the word exercise. I have a son, Jeff, who's an interventional cardiologist, and he exercises every day. So get that off the table. When he was doing his internal medicine residency at Vandy, he called me up one day and he goes, Mom, every time I mention the word exercise, my patients just turn me off. They don't want to exercise. They give me the pill. And I said, well, Jeff, because you can't say the word exercise, you have to say the word activity. Because if someone who is a couch potato and you say, oh, you have to exercise, well, they're not going to do that. But if you say, oh, you have to get off the couch and, walk out to the mailbox or walk a half a block, or, that's how we get people up and off the couch. Although I do agree that exercise is medicine, and a physician, my son gave me this book on longevity, which was written by a physician, and I got this quote, exercise is the most powerful longevity drug, and your 100-year-old physician just said that. Yeah. So, how do we get people more involved in families? Get back to nature. Yeah. Get out. And now we know that
take a walk
in the sunshine for 20 minutes a day. Remember, I always said we're going to find out that all this sunscreen is harmful.
Yes.
And now we know that getting out in the sun for at least 20 minutes a day, or as much as you can without the sunscreen, helps to jumpstart your hormones in the body based on your vitamin D. And vitamin D deficiency has really gotten out of control ever since we've been using the sunscreen.
Yeah.
So I'm just wanting to get people more involved. And what I wanted to tell you, my daybydayLiving.net, not only does it have a lot of nutrition information about how to get back, how to make your family healthy, but I talk about exercise and how to start an exercise program, get a group. I mean, if you do in a group, it's going to be so much more fun. You can do it at your church. You can do it at the library. There's a lot of different ways that you can become more active.
And it's not that big of an ask. If you really think about it, you're talking about 20 minutes of sunshine. How hard's that? Now, obviously, we're starting to go more into the fall and winter months. But you can still get plenty of sunshine. And again, you talked about the importance of vitamin D to the overall health of your body. It does so many things to your body. And then, when we get into that hardcore winter months where it's hardly any sunshine, you can supplement, and take vitamin D supplements to kind of help you a little bit to get you through those months. Unless you live in Florida, that's a little bit of a different story. I guess the other thing is, why is walking such an effective way to really get back in good health?
Well, I think everybody can walk. All you need is a pair of shoes. You can walk. You can go to the mall and walk indoors. You can, walk outside. You can even, depending on the size of your house, you can walk in circles in your house. You can join a fitness center and walk on a treadmill. There's lots of ways. Of course, I was a runner for 42 years and I had to start walking because I had foot surgery. But I think that it makes you feel good too. Once you start getting out and getting a little bit of exercise, but you can also walk in place as well. There's a lot of things. And I think we need to focus on our children and our grandchildren to make sure, like I have 13 grandkids, and my grandkids are really active, and they're active because I think it's a priority of the parents to make sure that they're active. But, honestly, I live in a small town now, and I go into Walmart to shop because that's about one of the places that everybody shops. And I look around and it's so sad. It's so sad. And, I was even trying to come up with an idea of how can we get those kids that fall in between the cracks that aren't going to play basketball and maybe not play soccer, but how can we get them, off the couch? And I remember when Michelle Obama started her Let's Move program, I thought, oh, great, we're going to get the kids moving. Not. It was about the school lunch. And I was saying, gosh, if you took that $1 billion of marketing and put it into having trainers come in and before school and had the whole school working out, just thinking how great they would be in terms of learning. They would learn a lot better. But of course, that's not what her thing was. Her thing was to cut the portion sizes down in the school meals, which might have been a good thing, but they lost a lot of customers when they did that, because then a lot of kids started bringing their lunch to school.
Yeah, and Barb, it really is the key is just movement and getting out and find something that you like and enjoy. Folks, you're listening to Kentucky's Voice. My special guest today is Barbara Day. We're going to be right back talking about SSRIs and mental health. Stay tuned.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
50 years ago, 1% of Americans in 1950 had type 2 diabetes. We have 18% of teens with fatty liver disease, a disease that used to be in late stage alcoholics. Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the elderly. Young adult cancers are up 79%. And this is the first year in American history we're estimated to have over 2 million cases of cancer. 25% of American women are on an antidepressant medication. 40% of 18-year-olds have a mental health diagnosis. We have the highest infant and maternal mortality rate in the entire developed world, despite spending 2x on infant and maternal care than any other country. So you have a higher risk of dying as a woman giving birth in America than any other developed country in the world. Autism rates in kids are 1 in 36 nationally. This was 1 in 1,500 in the year 2000, and the screening has not changed.
And of course, that was Dr. Casey Means. She has been nominated for Surgeon General by the Trump administration. She's also the author of a book called Good Energy, one that I have read and I highly recommend. And, we're just seeing and hearing all kinds of information. More and more is coming out that, it's scary. And by the way, my guest today is Barbara Day. She is a political activist and also a health professional. She's been a registered dietitian and involved in the media for many, many years. Has also made several trips to Washington, does it on a regular basis, and has actually met with, the Trump administration herself and is helping. And we'll talk more about that in our final segment today. But Barb has a really incredible background, and she's well aligned to be able to speak to the issues today. And if you want to join the program, feel free to text us at 502-571-0970. Again, that text line number is 502-571-0970. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. Your voice does matter to us. And, you are listening to Kentucky's Voice. And as I mentioned, we're talking today with Barbara Day about the big issues facing the health of our families. And I would call it, I know the Kennedy group has called it a health crisis. I fully agree with that. We are in a health crisis. We've covered and talked about the food and fitness. Now we need to address really something else, Barb, that I really want to get into. And it's another huge problem. People just have no idea. Mental health, and specifically the widespread use of antidepressants, almost given out like candy to everybody, and especially our children. Yeah, and did you know that nearly 1 of every 5 Americans, and this statistic absolutely blew me away, 1 in 5 Americans are on SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and as I mentioned, including children. And I know, Barb, you have some very strong concerns about this, and rightfully so, and what this means and how this affects our families.
Well, it's interesting because we talked about exercise and we talked about food or nutrition, and both of those items, if our kids or people ate better and exercised more, you know what? They might not be as depressed. Just saying. But it is a problem. I mean, I noticed it really bad during COVID because so many of people ended up staying at home. I mean, the kids were, they couldn't go to school. They couldn't see their friends. And at the time, I had several grandkids who were in college. And a lot, you might know this. I can't remember if your kids were in college during COVID, but a lot of the
high school and college at that time,
during that period got started on antidepressants because what? They had to stay in their dorm rooms. They couldn't go out to eat. If anybody went out to eat or outside, they were, oh my gosh, they were awful people. And I think that was kind of started so many people getting on antidepressants. depressants. And hey, I listened to a Tucker, he was interviewing this psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist was talking about depression and antidepressants, and how you just, if you get on them for a while, you don't just go, okay, I'm
No,
stopping.
that's
You
right.
have to, I mean, it takes a while to get off, and some people don't ever get off. And
Yeah.
he, the thing that was interesting is he said that antidepressants were only studied for 12 weeks. So people are started on antidepressants, and kids and teenagers and adults, and they might be on them for years and years, 5 or 6 years. And he claimed that once you start on them, then you keep having to go up in the doses.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
that's really the insidious nature of this, and really the pharmaceutical industry as a whole is they're treating symptoms, and will start increasing the volume, like you say, to be able to manage those symptoms instead of really getting at the root cause of the problem. How do you feel about that?
well, that's it. I mean, if somebody's depressed, instead of giving them a pill, why are they depressed? Are they depressed because, their parents are going through a divorce? Are they depressed because mom's in the workforce? Is mom depressed because she's in the workforce and she feels like she needs to be home with the kids? Is dad depressed because he can't make enough money to provide for his family? But instead of going to the actual root cause. But I also feel like the nutrition, poor nutrition, because when you think that Casey was talking about me, all the kids that have type 2 diabetes,
Yeah.
and you figure the type of food they're eating,
Yeah.
carb loads, sugar loads, and that messes with your head some. So
And this was stuff that was non-existent practically, 40, 50 years ago. We're now seeing, 30, 40% of kids are either diabetic or pre-diabetic, going in our country. It's not just happening for no reason. It's happening because of the food, I feel, and I think most experts are now seeing, because of the food that they're now eating.
Mhm. And I look at kids, and they like to be with other kids. And if we can get some of the kids who interacting, I mean, maybe start a walking club, start a running club, start a biking club, start a pickleball club for
Yeah,
kids.
right.
To have them do something that they can actually do, and they're not embarrassed, and no one, but I think this is where we're at. And I love Bobby Kennedy's approach, because it's not going to be a one thing approach. It's a massive approach.
Correct.
And all of the people that he has on his team, we're all working in sync to get the job done. And I just I would be delighted if more and more people got off of their antidepressants and were became more alive through eating better and being more active.
Yeah, and how much of this? I mean, you were talking earlier about the pandemic slash plandemic that happened, that really forced kids, in particular, adults too, obviously, into unnatural lifestyle, and that's being cooped up in a house, 24/7. And I don't care who you are, but that's just not a normal thing that we found ourselves in, and consequently, that's why we've seen this explosion of mental health issues, that are going on in our country right now. And what can we do about this? Obviously, we've gotten through that segment of a dark history. Where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, like I say, I think that parents need to get more active. And of course, I'm a grandparent, and I look, and you may have a lot of pull with your grandkids or not, but I think that we all need to just get active and get more involved, especially our kids, to make sure that they have the support that they need, so that
Yes.
they don't go down the depression track. I mean, that that is the big problem. And like the psychiatrist who spends 100% of his time getting people off of antidepressants said we have to get to those root causes and see, what we can do, if it is a nutritional thing or an environment thing. That's where I think that is critical, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Bobby Kennedy does, because I think he's marching in the right direction.
Yeah, and how much do cultural lies play into this? But cultural lies, when I say cultural lies, I'm talking about like climate change and family, race, and gender play into children's depression. Yeah, we have a little bit over a minute to go in this segment.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you tell a kid in a public school that he's the wrong color and he's a bad person because of his color, or her color, what does that do to the kid? I mean, I think this is just all very outrageous. Or you tell them, well, you're in the wrong, you're not in the right sex, just change it. What?
Yeah.
It's and I don't know how much of this is going on in public schools in the inner cities, but it is, I've heard, and it's a little scary. We should be talking to them about, let's get out, let's get some fresh air, and forget all this other stuff.
Well, amen to that. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. My special guest today is Barbara Day. When we come back for our final segment, we're going to be talking about and hearing more about Barb's involvement with several organizations and trying to help make America better. Stay tuned.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Okay, 2 minutes.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
We spend nearly as much in our country for health care as all the other nations in the world combined, and yet we have the worst health outcomes. We've lost 6 years in lifespan and longevity to Europe in the past 20 years. Our girls are hitting puberty 6 years earlier than historically. Our young men have sperm counts that are half of what they ought to be. They have testosterone levels that are half of what they ought to be. We have diabetes that is now endemic, not just epidemic, it's everywhere. 38% of teens are now diabetic or pre-diabetic. When I was a kid, it was 0. And the autism rates, which the president is particularly concerned with, have dropped from less than 1 in 10,000 in 1970 to 1 in every 31 kids today. So this is a national security issue. 8 out of 10 of our children, of our young men, cannot qualify for military service. So it's national security, it's our economy, it's wrecking. This is an existential crisis for our country.
Wow. Some sobering statistics from our Secretary of Health, Robert Kennedy Jr. It really is sobering, Barb. And again, my guest today is Barbara Day. You are listening to Kentucky's Voice. If you'd like to ask a question, feel free to text us at 502-571-0970. Again, that text line number is 502-571-0970. We welcome your comments. This is, as I mentioned, the final segment. We've been talking about making America healthy again. And Barbara, after everything we've heard today, I mean, we've got an uphill battle going on here. You know, that it's a scary thing for supposedly our nation, at least those who like to I think, gaslight us from, you know, whether it be the pharmaceutical industry or the medical industrial complex. They try to tell us we live in the healthiest nation in America. And I can say statistically that is a lie. You know, we live, as far as health is concerned, and among industrialized nations in the world, we're the worst. We're not number one. We're the worst, you know, and that's where you have to really step back. And that's the thing I do admire RFK Jr. in particular for stepping to the forefront of this. And, you know, he had aspirations to be president, but, you know, he put those aside because he realizes that we face an existential threat, as he talked about, to where we may not even have enough healthy young men to serve in our military, you know, just because of where they find themselves, where we find ourselves as a nation. And, you know, all I'm going to say is stop the gaslighting Republicans, stop the gaslighting Democrats, and let's get back to the heart of the matter, and let's make America healthy again. It isn't a Republican, it isn't a Democrat issue. It's an issue for the health of our nation, and there's so many factors at play here that need to really be addressed. And, you know, and again, Barbara, where do we start? You know, you're the expert on this. I know, talk a little bit. I know you've obviously have gotten involved with several groups. I know one you're working with very closely, I think Moms for America, and some things that you're doing. But talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, one of the things that I've promised Moms for America is as soon as we get the U.S. dietary guidelines, the new ones, the MAHA ones, then I'm going to work on an online ebook about the steps. And a lot of what I was telling you about my daybydayLiving.net, I have a lot of the beginning.
And that's your website address.
That's my website, the beginning.
Write that down, folks.
Talking about prebiotics, probiotics, talking about dietary fiber and foods, and talking about, you know, using maybe smoothies with veggies and fruits and stuff to entice our kids to eat more green stuff. And so, that's one of the things that I have in my mind that I want to do is because, like I told you earlier, we need to give steps to families or individuals on how to begin and teach them how they can afford this because people say, oh, fresh foods are too expensive or this or that, and there are other options that you can get, and those we need to take we need to, I guess, hold people's hands and walk them through it so that they know,
Yeah.
how to start. This is not going to be easy, Bob.
No.
If it were easy, we would have done this a while back. So it's
And that's part of the problem, Barb, is we as a society in this country have been made to believe that if we take a certain pill, it's
mhm,
going to all go away and we're going to get better. And it can in certain rare instances, but for the most part, that's not the case. It is a systematic approach. And I'll talk a second here about something I've been walking through, and I've walked through for the last 5 years with regard to my own health, but it really isn't as simple as take this pill and everything's going to get
right,
fine.
right,
Correct?
yeah. Right, that's true. And I will say that our Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, I've met her. She's great. She's got some great ideas on, changing farming because we know that some of the farming methods, like I live in a rural county, and they do change their crops yearly because they don't want to mess the soil up, depending on what crops they're known for, their farm's known for. But I think that she's got some great ideas about how we can make foods available for more people to get healthy, because that's where we're at. We have to take some of these food additives, food colors out. And I mean, even myself, when I was teaching people how to read food labels, we rarely taught them how to read ingredient labels. We
Right.
taught them how to look at calories on portion sizes. Well, now, we still look at that, but now we're looking, I'm teaching them how to look at food labels and discard some of the items that they have all these additives that are harmful, maybe for their health or for their health of their children. So, it's sort of, I've always liked to be kind of a pioneer and stuff. And that's why I said I wish I was 25 again, because this is the kind of stuff that I like to do, because we have to get creative in how we teach people.
Yeah, and a big part of that, and you were talking to it a little bit. Huge part of it, and a huge part to I think our overall health detriment in this country is the overuse of pesticides, such as glyphosate. In particular, which many countries in Europe have banned its use, but it's commonly used in this country as a drying agent. It apparently helps farmers with crop yield, at the end of the day. But it absolutely wrecks your gut microbiome, among other things, and has been implicated in many lawsuits as far as cancer is concerned. And I know that the gut microbiome is considered the second brain of the body. So basically, if you're going in and destroying that, you're destroying part of your brain, if you will, and the way your body functions. How can that be a good thing?
Right. And that's how another thing you bring up. We have to teach people how to feed and create a healthy microbiome, and it's what you eat and what you drink, or what you don't eat and what you don't drink. You could say it either way.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah.
that's the challenge. And I'm up for the challenge, and I see your shirt. I know you are. You are too.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bible says that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and God created us for a purpose, and this is something I know our friend Charlie Kirk talked about. He always put God first in his talks. It's obviously tragic what happened to him, but you know what? And he had teamed up with RFK Jr. with the Make America Healthy Again movement, and helped launch several of his people into supporting that. We got to continue Charlie's fight, with regard to working to bring principles of faith, family, and freedom, to our country, and getting back to the basics and eating things. And that's one of the ways you get back to the basics is consuming and taking in things that are going to be healthy for your body. We have a little bit over 2 minutes to go in the show. Barb, what are some of your final thoughts about today's session?
Well, one thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about the program. I'm the Grammy Grizzly group leader for Moms for America. And I have what I want to challenge grandmothers to do is to go online at daybydayliving.net and look at my column where I talk about reading to young kids about how great America is.
Yes.
We need to, so Grammys could jumpstart making a patriotic child program in their, you could do it at a library, you could do it at your church. And on my website, I have lots of books that you can read to your grandkids to help get them thinking about faith, family, and freedom. Those are the three things that have made America great again, or made America great. And so teaching your grandkids and giving them options and learning from reading these books to them, I think will be a great start to make patriotic kids as they grow up. And that's what we want to do as well. We're celebrating our 250th anniversary in July 4th next year. So we got to work on that. And we already have our hotel rooms. We're going.
Amen to that. And you've been listening to Kentucky's Voice and Barbara Day. Daybydayliving.net is her email site. That's all for today, folks. I'm Bob Scott, and you've been listening to Kentucky's Voice. God bless you, and God bless Kentucky, and God bless